A few weeks ago, Prince Abdul Mateen of Brunei, son of the richest monarch in the world, pulled off a $100 million wedding that's got everyone talking. You'd expect a fairy tale wedding like this to be all glittery with sparkles and smiles, right? But no, this one's causing some serious drama. You see, Mateen decided to break a 600-year-old royal tradition by marrying someone who isn't from a royal bloodline. And now, people are buzzing with questions about what this means for the monarchy. As this real-life Cinderella story unfolds, the gossip about the bride's past, her family's history, and the Sultan's unexpected approval is only getting juicier. So what's really going on with this wedding? Let's get into it and see why it's got everyone talking, and not all in a good way. To understand why this wedding has got everyone buzzing, you've got to know a little bit about Brunei. This tiny country on the island of Borneo might be small, but it's absolutely rolling in cash. We're talking about one of the last absolute monarchies on the planet, where the Sultan, Hassan al-Bolkiah, still has control over basically everything. This country enjoys one of the highest standards of living thanks to its vast oil and gas reserves. There's no income tax, and the Sultan himself is the reason why Brunei is known as the abode of peace. This guy lives in Istana Nur al-Iman, the biggest residential palace in the world, with 1,788 rooms. This isn't just a place to crash after a long day. It's a monument to luxury, complete with a banquet hall big enough to host 5,000 guests, and a garage packed with over 100 cars. And if that's not wild enough, he's got the largest private car collection ever. Over 7,000 cars, including a gold-plated Rolls-Royce, a custom McLaren F1, and a Bentley that would make even James Bond jealous. But that's a story for another day. With a population of only about 450,000, Brunei is famous for its lush rainforests and some of the most incredible biodiversity you'll find anywhere. Plus, it's one of the few places where they still have the death penalty for serious crimes like drug trafficking. So yeah, Brunei is where old school tradition and modern life mix in some pretty wild ways. So when you hear about a royal wedding here costing $100 million, it's not surprising. But is it really worth it? Now that's where things start to get really interesting. Let's start by meeting the star of our story, Prince Abdul Mateen. Born in 1991, Abdul Mateen ibn Hassan al-Bolkiah is the fourth son of Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah and his second wife, Mariam Aziz. As we mentioned earlier, he's not the crown prince, which might make you think that he's not in the spotlight as much. But let me tell you, this guy shines bright enough to make headlines all on his own. Mateen isn't your typical royal. Sure, he's got fancy titles and the privilege, but he's also a man of action. After all, he's not just sitting around sipping tea and playing polo, although he does that too. This prince has carved out a name for himself in both military and diplomatic circles. Before getting to the wedding drama, let's appreciate what makes him so special. At just 23, Mateen joined the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in the UK, the same prestigious institution that has trained British royals like Prince William and Prince Harry. It's a place where you don't just learn to march in straight lines, you get pushed to your limits, both physically and mentally. And Mateen didn't just pass, he excelled. He's also served in the British Royal Air Force, flying fighter jets and making his mark as a skilled pilot. Oh, and did I mention he's trained with the British Commandos, earning himself a Green Beret, which his proud dad handed him personally. So yeah, Mateen's the real deal, a blend of brains, brawn, and a whole lot of royal charm. But what sets him apart is the air of mystery around his personal life. While his dad's love life has been in the news for years, Mateen's kept things pretty low-key. No wild parties, no messy breakups making headlines, just a quiet, almost monk-like dedication to his duties. That is, until the news broke that he was finally tying the knot, and that's when all hell broke loose. The bride in question? That would be Anisha Isa. But who is she really? Anisha's life has been a mix of two different worlds. On her mum's side, she's from one of Brunei's most influential families. Her grandfather, Dato' Isa, is a key advisor to the Sultan and co-founder of Royal Brunei Airlines, the country's largest airline. So while Anisha might not have royal blood, she's definitely no stranger to all the glamour, power and privilege that comes with being wealthy. Her dad, Adam Kalabic, brings Croatian heritage into the mix, giving Anisha this unique blend of East and West. But her parents' marriage? Let's just say it was far from smooth. Growing up, Anisha's home life was anything but picture perfect. Her parents' marriage was rocky to say the least. Her mother, Maryam Isa, eventually reached her breaking point and filed for divorce, accusing Anisha's father of physical abuse. What started out as some private family matter turned into a very chaotic public scandal. All the messy details of their troubled marriage were dragged out in court, with the whole country watching. For Anisha, this meant living in a household full of tension and uncertainty. Imagine dealing with your parents' bitter breakup while the media picks and dissects every detail. That would be tough for anyone, but especially for someone from such a high-profile family. But Anisha didn't let her parents' drama define her. She focused on her education and built her own path. She earned a degree in economics from the University of Bath, then dove headfirst into the business world. Fast forward to today, and Anisha's making waves as the brains behind several successful ventures. She's founded a chain of fashion houses called Silk Collective and co-founded a travel company called Authentinary. Her father, Adam Kalabic, owns the Fratini restaurant chain, known in Brunei for its Italian cuisine, which probably explains where Anisha gets her love for cooking. She even used to share her culinary creations on Instagram, until, of course, her relationship with Prince Mateen went public, and the trolls forced her to shut down her account. But before we get to the juicy bits about their relationship, let's clear something up. Anisha might not have a crown, but she's no Cinderella just waiting around to be rescued by a prince. She's built her empire, forged her path, and by all accounts, she's a powerhouse in her own right. So when people start throwing shade at her for not being royal enough, it's worth remembering that she's more than just the woman on Mateen's arm. Now, how did Anisha and Mateen's paths cross? Well, it turns out their story isn't your typical boy meets girl fairy tale. These two have known each other since they were kids. Their families were close, and they often hung out at parties and social gatherings. But back then, it was just innocent fun. No romantic sparks, just two teenagers enjoying the perks of their high society lives. Fast forward to their college years, and things start to get interesting. Both Mateen and Anisha ended up in England for their studies. Imagine being in a foreign country far from home and running into a familiar face. That's how it was for them, a comforting connection in a sea of strangers. They started spending more time together, bonding over shared experiences, and before they knew it, friendship blossomed into something more. By 2018, whispers about their relationship started flying around. They were seen at events together, looking every bit like a couple in love. But it wasn't until 2020 that things really started to get serious. Social media was buzzing with pictures of them together, and it became clear that this wasn't just a casual fling. Their commitment was obvious, and everyone started wondering if Mateen would actually break royal tradition and marry someone who wasn't of noble blood. In 2023, we got our answer straight from the Sultan himself. Prince Mateen was officially set to marry Anisha Isa Kalabic. And just like that, the internet went wild. Some people were thrilled. Finally, a royal couple shaking things up. But others? Let's just say the backlash was fast, and for some, pretty harsh. Critics were quick to bring up Anisha's past, her parents' messy divorce and her old relationship with Dan Bowman as reasons she wasn't fit to be a royal bride. But the real problem for a lot of people was that she wasn't of royal blood. For some, it was an unforgivable break from a tradition that's been around for centuries. But for others, it was a breath of fresh air, a sign that love is what really counts, not a person's background. And let's not forget about the elephant in the room, the jaw-dropping $100 million price tag on this wedding. In a world where people are more aware and can relate to wealth inequality than ever, spending that kind of money on a single event was bound to raise some eyebrows. Sure, Brunei is one of the richest countries around, But that doesn't mean everyone's living large. For many, this kind of extravagance felt like a slap in the face, especially when so many are just trying to make ends meet. But let's break down where that $100 million went, shall we? First off, there's the venue, Istana Nurul Iman, the Sultan's palace, which is basically a mini city unto itself. You've got banquet halls, ballrooms, and enough guest rooms to house a small army. Then there's the decor. Think gold, diamonds, and more flowers than you've ever seen in your life. We're talking about turning the palace into a literal Garden of Eden with every inch dripping in luxury. The guest list? A lineup of global royalty, heads of state, and celebrities. If you didn't get an invite, tough luck. This was the social event of the decade. And the food? No cheese and crackers here. Guests were treated to gourmet feasts from world-class chefs, with each course more impressive than the last. But here's the thing, while some people were swept up in the romance and grandeur of it all, others couldn't help but wonder, was all of this really necessary? In a world where millions are struggling just to get by, is it okay to spend $100 million on a wedding? Or is it another example of the rich flaunting their wealth while the rest of us watch from the sidelines? And then there's the environmental impact. Massive events like this aren't exactly eco-friendly. The carbon footprint alone must have been astronomical. Private jets flying in guests from around the world, lavish decorations that were probably used for a few hours and then discarded. Let's not even get started on the fireworks display. In an era where people are increasingly concerned about climate change, this kind of excess is hard to justify. Oh, and did I mention that the wedding lasted for 10 days? Yep, 10 days of constant celebration. But before we go on, what do you think? Do you think these reasons are justified? Let us know in the comment section below. Now to the million-dollar question. Why did the Sultan, the custodian of the Brunei tradition, allow his youngest son to break 600 years of royal custom? The Sultan's decision to let Prince Mateen marry Anisha Isa, even though she doesn't have royal blood, really comes down to how much he loves and respects his son. Mateen has made his father proud in every way. He's accomplished, disciplined, and completely scandal-free. For a son who's done everything right, the Sultan was more than willing to bend the rules if it meant making him happy. Plus, the Sultan knows firsthand that a strong personal connection can mean more than sticking to old traditions. After all, he's married women outside of royalty himself. Anisha's background, being tied to one of Brunei's most influential families, and her own achievements probably helped seal the deal. In the end, the Sultan's blessing shows that he's ready to take a more modern approach, putting love and happiness above strict traditions. And that's it for today, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and remember to like and subscribe to this channel for more amazing stories like this. See you next time.